Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. Thanks for joining us on our Tuesday night live program. We are here every Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and we go live. So I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. I know we did miss last week, but sometimes things come up in the practice of law that requires, we have to be flexible. So I appreciate everyone being flexible and sticking around. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. I have got a stack of stuff right here that we're going to talk about this evening. First and foremost, a lot of stuff going on in the Laurie, Vallow, Chad Daybell matters. There's a hearing that's going to take place on Thursday. Why is that significant? Well, as you may recall, the defense in the case, Laurie Vallow, they became a little upset that they didn't know there were some microphones in various locations in the courtroom, and they thought that perhaps there were going to be attorney-client conversations that were recorded. So we've got breaking news on that, the information from the news agencies. And I think it's rather interesting that they all refer to themselves as interested persons. I think there's another word for that, interveners. But yet when Laurie Hellis moved as an intervener, she was basically dismissed by the judge. You don't know anything. We don't have interveners in criminal cases. That's a term used for civil cases, and therefore I'm going to deny your motions. You don't even know what you're talking about. So she filed again. Now, did the court set her hearing on her motions as early as they did for, the news organizations? No, they did not. They set her hearing out into October. I think it's October 13th. And yet this one, is heard on an expedited basis. And yet they're using the same words, and they're not being told there's no such thing. The judge says, fine, let's have a hearing on it. We'll have it on Thursday. And that's what we're going to discuss. Are there going to be cameras in the courtroom for the proceedings going forward? And have some interesting pleadings filed by the attorneys for multiple news organizations. But coincidentally, none of these news organizations are asking for all the information that Laurie Hellis has been asking for. And we'll talk about that because I think it's going to be rather intriguing to you. I hope it is. I think it's interesting to me. But hey, who am I? But there are some 44 entries in the record that have not been made available, and 44 entries in the record as it relates to the Laurie Vallow matter that have not been open to the public. 44. Some are orders, some are motions, some are hearings, completely kept from the public. And according to Laurie Hellis's motion, they've been sealed and kept from the public without complying with the rules. So we will talk about that as well, because I think that is of great significance. Everyone should be concerned about that when the court is engaged. 44. You can go, most cases don't have 44 filings, 44 court appearances. And yet the court doesn't think that a case that big and that significant shouldn't be open to the public. That's concerning. That's very, very concerning. And yet now the court and the prosecution are starting to dot their I's and cross their T's, saying, oh, judge, this could affect whether we get a fair trial or not. Why? I don't get it. I don't see. Also, Eliza Fletcher. I don't know why that case bugs me so much. Okay. Eliza Fletcher, she is out for an early morning run. 4:20 in the morning. She's a mother. She's married, minding her own business, and goes out and gets abducted and ultimately winds up dead because of this Mr. Henderson guy. Cleotha Henderson. And like I said, I don't, maybe it's because I have a young daughter that, she goes out for her workouts, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, traveling out there by herself, going out there to make herself a better person, so to speak. And here's Ms. Fletcher going out there for a run. Just leave her alone. Like, how difficult is it? And then to find out that this Mr. Henderson guy has a previous case where he was, they didn't really have a suspect, but they had DNA. They didn't test the DNA. And had they tested it, it would have come back to Mr. Henderson. And then, well, maybe he'd be in custody right now. But once again, a lot of these, cases, if there's not a victim saying, hey, this is the guy, they don't test these DNA kits with any sense of urgency whatsoever. And had they tested it, well, they would have found out that it was this Mr. Henderson guy, the man accused of killing Eliza Fletcher. And maybe she'd still be here because he'd be in custody. Now, I get it. And for those of you who aren't familiar with, our little show here, I am a practicing criminal defense attorney who I've represented some of the worst, so to speak. Had some of the worst facts around and got in there and zealously represented my client. But, I'm not going to be representing this Mr. Henderson in the Eliza Fletcher matter. And so we can talk about, we'll give him the presumption of innocence. But let's face it, it doesn't look good. They got his DNA on the little flip-flop slipper, whatever he was wearing, where they believe the abduction took place. That's how they were able to expedite that through and make him a suspect almost immediately. And, a little too late, so to speak, but at least they've got him. But like I said, it just really bugs me. And then the first thing this guy does when he goes to court says, I don't want the public defenders. They represented me 20 years ago and I got a bad deal. Well, there's, guess what, Mr. Henderson? If you don't want to retain private counsel, you can't afford it, you're going to get the public defender's office. And sure, they may be busy, but that's just the reality of life. They have to give you a defense attorney. They don't have to necessarily give you the best one. And they certainly don't have to give you one that only has one case on their docket. They certainly don't have to do that. So, he's in there complaining about that. 20 years ago. And then to come find out this guy has a prior conviction as a juvenile for a sexual assault. He has another conviction, the one that he got 20 years on, where he kidnapped an attorney, shoved him in his trunk and made him go get money from the ATM machine. And the guy got 20 years and he's, complaining about that. Kidnapping, aggravated robbery, heck, where I practice law, 20 years is a gift, even when you are 18 years old. Those may seem like big numbers, but they're not, as you can see, because a lot of the times defendants get released on, you don't serve the whole sentence. Okay. So many states, you get people where you can say, yeah, the reason why they have these big numbers is everybody knows you're not going to serve any of it. Hence the reason why they throw out these big numbers. 40 years. Oh my gosh. You're going to do about 16 of that. 16 on 40? What? But that's what they do. And then they all get good time, earned time credit. You get good time for following the rules. Wow. There's a concept, right? I know you may be saying, Scott, what the hell are you talking? You're a criminal defense. I don't have to like it, right? As a member of this, as the community, some of this stuff that goes on offends me. Now, obviously, everybody who is accused of a crime is given the presumption of innocence, But once they've been found guilty, or they plead guilty or found guilty by a jury of their peers, that presumption of innocence goes away. And then they're guilty, right? And as a defense attorney, I will zealously represent anyone that I represent to make sure that their rights are protected, and we hold the government to their burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt to each and every element of the offense charged unanimously to a jury of 12 people. Okay? We will do that. But as a member of the community, I can tell you and say some of this stuff is ridiculous. Okay? And yes, we don't want people to serve any greater sentence than is necessary, but some of this stuff is ridiculous. And the reason why is because whomever is in power, they always go too far, right? When people were saying, we're going to go strong on crime, we want mandatory minimum sentences on everything, we're going to show them. And then that was great until people had a family member or a friend or, themselves. The next thing you know, they're looking at spending a lot of time because there's a mandatory minimum sentence. And people are like, wow, that's terrible. That's terrible. We can't do that. And then the legislature say, well, we're being soft on crime, so we're going to increase the crime or the punishments for crime. We're going to increase the punishments for crime, and that'll show them. And now we have kind of a swing back the other way, where we don't want to send anybody to prison, and everybody gets a bond, no matter how bad of crime that you have in fact committed. But the general rules of bond and bail should remain the same. Are you a danger to the community and a flight risk? And if you're charged with a crime of violence or something along those lines, we've said it before, if you're charged with rape, murder, and violent crime, you're kind of, let's face it, you're kind of the bad guy. And yes, we give you the presumption of innocence, but we have to use common sense as well and say, hey, you're accused of doing really bad things. You're a danger to the community, maybe even yourself. It used to be the judges would not let somebody out of fear that they would let them out and they would go commit a new crime. Now what takes place is that these magistrates and these judges sit in courtrooms, and they don't want to be the person who denies a PR bond to somebody and be accused of, what do you have against poor people? What do you have against anybody in this courtroom? Why would you not give them a bond? Are you a racist of some type? And so the judges just panic. I'll give you a PR bond with a lot of supervision. It'll be like being in jail, but you're not. Okay. So a lot of bad stuff. And like I said, the Eliza Fletcher case, I think, just brings to light some of the nonsense out there. It also brings to light some of the circumstances. I get it. Police, cities, you have limited resources. Okay. But, you have kind of a social contract with the people of the community to keep, your job as the government is to protect our rights. And when somebody violates our rights, right, to be able to go out for a run and not be harassed or kidnapped and ultimately bludgeoned to death, you got to make those priorities. I think most people say, well, that's a priority over, I don't know, you name the program that's out there. Everybody thinks their program is worthwhile, but you're not going to have any of those programs, and no one's going to be able to go to them if everybody is in fact, getting beat up, robbed. It just doesn't matter. They're not going to be able to do it. So we can come back to that. Keep the questions. Now, we don't ask for them, but Super Chats highlights the questions here. And sometimes the Super Chats get going pretty fast, but we'll try to get to them. So the first thing I want to talk about tonight. Oh, one other thing I want to talk about before we get to the Crime Talk stack of stuff. And that is that former judge, independent counsel, Ken Starr is dead. Now, a lot of people may not remember Ken Starr. They may say, oh, isn't that some old guy? I mean, he was 76 years old. Oh, he's so old. Well, first of all, I'd like to think that's not that old. I hope to exceed that. but he had a pretty distinguished career, and I think it's worth noting. He clerked for Warren Burger, the Supreme Court justice, became an appellate court judge himself, and then he was the Solicitor General for the United States, which means he argued before the United States Supreme Court on behalf of the United States government. And he had something like 35 or 40 cases before the Supreme Court. This guy's smart, okay? And the reason I saw him at, it was I think it was a National Trial Lawyers conference that we had. And the guy was very, very sharp, very, very sharp. He was doing the appellate work actually on one of the not asbestos, but the mass tort cases. I think it was the talcum powder stuff where he had did it, and the Supreme Court said, no, let the appellate court lower. And he was there to talk about that. Very interesting, very smart guy. And then obviously his claim to fame, where he was the most well-known person or most hated or liked person, was when he was the independent counsel, which began the investigations to President Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton in connection with their failed Arkansas real estate deal, Whitewater. And then there was the insider trading. And then ultimately the impeachment in regards to the lying before a court, which brought around the impeachment. And he was also most recently on the legal team for President Trump on his impeachment, where they did not succeed. So 76 years old, pretty smart guy. And apparently he'd had an illness, but I knew he was practicing with a law firm out of New York recently. I think it was more of an of counsel type of thing, but he was also been the president of Baylor University, the president of Pepperdine University. So, condolences to the family there. And I remember when all that stuff was going on, I was a junior captain in the United States Marine Corps, where we were prosecuting people for adultery. And obviously the president was under his own scandal for his extracurricular activities with Monica Lewinsky, a name that a lot of people will live in infamy. So anyway, all right, let's move to Laurie Vallow. And what do we want to talk about on Laurie Vallow? We want to talk about the media, okay? First, and I don't know, Frank, so we have the corrected order of interested persons expedited motion for leave to submit response to defendant's motion to clarify media in the courtroom and to appear and present oral argument. Well, that's a mouthful, isn't it? So apparently the judge put out an order. Then he corrected the order. And like I said, now all these people are interested parties, whereas Laurie Hellis has to identify herself as a non-party movement. Sorry. So it says the interested person's expedited motion for leave to submit a response to the defendant's motion to clarify media in the courtroom and to appear present or argument is granted. The counsel for interested persons may submit a response to the defendant's motion to clarify media in the courtroom and appear and present oral argument. So what does that mean? Well, the attorney for all of these interested parties, and I won't go through them all, but let me show you. So the attorney for the interested persons is a guy by the name of Stephen Wright from the Wright Law Offices. And it looks like he's got an office in Idaho Falls. And let me just give you for clarification, right? So these are some of the people that say, hey, we want to be in the courtroom. East Idaho News, Court TV, the Associated Press, the McClatchy Company, doing business as the Idaho Statesman, KSL.com, a subsidiary of Deseret Digital Media, KTVB, a division of King Broadcasting Company, KUTV, KMYU, CBS Broadcasting on behalf of CBS News, 48 Hours, Dateline NBC, NBC News, Adams Publishing Group, doing business as the Post Register, Sinclair Broadcast Group, Cable News Network, CNN, KIFI, ABC Idaho Falls, MIFI, CBS Idaho Falls, KXPI, Fox Idaho News, blah, 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 blah. It goes on. Okay. So I show you from the stack of stuff, all this stuff. And their motion basically says, hey, although couched as a motion to clarify, the relief defendant seeks is to ban cameras from the courtroom. This relief is sought based on false and unwarranted claims that the media has abused their privilege to photograph and record the proceedings in a fair and reasonable manner, which is really what the defense said. We don't want any cameras in here. All right? We can't have openness and light shining in. We can't do that. And they're looking for any reason to get the cameras out of there. Okay? The media has complied in all respects with the order of this court. The defendant cites no example to the contrary. The defendant is seriously mistaken to assume that the media has been any less professional than the defendant's own counsel in complying with the orders of this court. Ouch. Ouch. The mistaken to assume that the media has been any less professional than the defendant's own counsel. As shown by the declaration of Grace Wong, we'll get to that in a minute, which they filed concurrently herewith, the actions of the media at the August 6, 2022 hearing and at all other times have been filed to facilitate the proper decorum in the court within the bounds of the court's orders. The defendant complains of the placement of the camera and the microphones. The cameras and the microphones were not hidden. Regardless, their placement was purposely unobtrusive. Trained technical personnel monitored the hearing to ensure that inappropriate information, audio or visual, was not captured. The only audio captured was that which appeared on the broadcast feed. Rather than cite actual examples of inappropriate conduct, the defendant complains that if certain things would have happened, a violation of the court's order could have occurred. And they say, hey, why don't you take a look at the defendant's motion at paragraph 2. This hypothetical assumes the media was looking for a way to violate rather than comply with the court's order. The defendant provides absolutely no basis for this baseless assumption. The defendant also complains of video taken of her. The video of defendant in a public setting in no way violates the court order. It cannot be surprising or unexpected that given the crimes in which the defendant has been accused, a significant portion of the video would be devoted to her, right? Come on. Particularly the defendant's reaction to the court proceedings. It is clear that the court recognizes the important function of the media to provide transparency in these proceedings. Isn't that right, Judge Boyce? Transparency. It is equally clear this court recognizes the constitutional right of the defendant and the critical importance of decorum in the court proceedings. Despite the defendant's accusations, the media has done nothing to violate the balance properly struck by this court. Therefore, interested persons respectfully request that the defendant's motion be denied. Now, of course, Judge Boyce didn't say, you introduce yourselves as interested parties. We don't have interested parties in criminal proceedings here in the state of Idaho. How dare you caption this such a way? I have reprimanded Laurie Hellis for doing the same. But since you're the media, we're going to go ahead and we're not going to mention boo about that to anyone. Okay. Now, a couple more things on this. And I think the court should continue to allow the cameras in the courtroom because it is a significant case, the press has a constitutional right to cover things of great importance to the people, given the serious nature of the crime, as well as the alleged heinous nature of the crime. It would appear more than reasonable that the people have a right to see and know what evidence is taking place. And wait till we get to the Laurie Hellis motion. You are going to be shocked, surprised, and offended. You're going to be offended and surprised even. There are all these interveners here that you can't really see here on the screen. I guess you can. All these news organizations. Not a single one thought that it was worth doing what Laurie Hellis did. I mean, look at that. East Idaho News, Court TV, CNN. I mean, you got all the big networks there. ABC, ABC News, all of them. It goes on for, I mean, look at them. I could add them, count them all, but look how many people are there saying, hey, judge, as interveners, these are all the people that want to do it. We just want to observe what's going on here. Okay. And so they filed a statement, a declaration of Grace Wong, which is really a proffer. And it really says, hey, judge, I'm going to make a proffer of the testimony. If this witness was called, this is what she would say. And this person's name is Grace Wong. And she says, my name is Grace Wong, that she's a senior director of courtroom coverage for Court TV, a subsidiary of the EW Scripps Company, and has worked in that capacity or similar role since October of 2018. For approximately 30 years, Ms. Wong has worked as a producer for various media entities, including ABC News, CNN, Turner Broadcasting, and the former Court TV cable network. During that time, she's worked on dozens of proceedings in which cameras were permitted in the courtroom. Court TV was responsible for pool coverage of the hearing in this case on August 16th of 2022, and she was at the courthouse the day and was the producer of the Court TV's pool coverage. And she strongly objects to the characterization of Court TV's coverage of the hearing as set forth in the defendant's motion to clarify media in the courtroom. Court TV complied in all respect with the court's order governing the conduct dated April 14th of 2022. She goes on to state that Court TV takes very seriously its obligation to comply with court orders regarding cameras in the courtroom and to fulfill its responsibilities in a manner that does not interfere with the natural flow of the court proceedings. In fact, Court TV has a strong reputation for professionalism when reporting about court proceedings, including video and audio recordings of these proceedings. Court TV is particularly cognizant of its obligation to abide by court orders and to maintain appropriate court decorum when Court TV is providing pool coverage, which Court TV has done in numerous cases, including many of the country's most high-profile cases. Court TV has distributed pool feeds to dozens of media organizations and millions of viewers, all in compliance with strict court orders. Prominent recent trials in which Court TV has provided pool coverage include the Chauvin trial in Minneapolis, obviously the George Floyd matter, Depp v. Heard, the trial of the civil defamation matter, the death penalty trial against Nicholas Cruz in Parkland, Florida. Court TV also provides pool coverage for the 2-day preliminary hearing in the case against Chad Daybell on August 3rd and 4th in the same courthouse, in the same courtroom as the hearing in this case. On August 16th, the hearing in this case, as in the proceedings in other Court TV cases, has covered. Court TV complied in all respect with the operative court orders and rules. Assertions to the contrary in the defendant's motion to clarify media in the courtroom appears to be based either on misunderstanding about technical aspects of the camera coverage of trials or unfounded speculation. Needless to say, it goes on and on and on. and that they did everything that they could. And yes, people were aware that microphones were there. Basically, the court told them to place them, and they did nothing wrong. And that's basically a 6-page declaration. So I'm not sure why the court jumped on this motion so quickly by the defense to ban, courtrooms. One, the defense attorneys didn't like the fact that when testimony came out or argument came out about something, they would look over and say, here's a picture of Laurie Vallow. Okay. As they stated, people want to see what her reaction is to various information that comes about. Is she laughing? Is she smiling? Is she smirking? Is she saying, well, wait till I get to tell my story, right? The same thing that jurors would do when a jury is hearing a case. You think defense attorneys don't tell the client, hey, they're going to be watching you and every move that you make. So act like you're paying attention. Let's kind of keep our, head forward. Listen to the witness. Don't mean mug them or anything along those lines. It's okay to react. If somebody makes a joke, it's okay to chuckle in the courtroom, right? It's okay. You're human. Don't mean mug them. Don't look like you're bored. It's okay to cry. All that good stuff. Any defense attorney worth their salt is going to tell their client to do that, what I just said. It's okay to look and be human. They're going to be watching every move you make. Done it hundreds of times, if not thousands of times for clients. That's what you need to do, okay? And why didn't they tell their client, don't be smirking when the other side is arguing? If you don't like what they have to say, write it down and tell me, this is the most ridiculous argument I've ever heard. This guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what I'm talking about, what he's talking about. That's okay. You can do that. At least it looks like you're interested. But when you're smirking or rolling your eyes or laughing, that looks bad. So they filed this motion, the defense did, on behalf of Laurie Vallow, and said, Judge, it makes us going to look bad. Our client, she's going to look bad. And people are going to think she's a bad, bad person. Okay, those are the things that people do. And there's facts that are going to come out at trial. And there's facts that are going to come out before trial. And a lot of facts have already come out. And the mere fact that she wasn't out looking for her kids, most people have probably already prejudged her and said, she's probably not a good mom. Either A, she's crazy. B, she's a total narcissist. And she doesn't care about those kids, and she never did. Or maybe she did at one time, but something changed, right? How much worse could it possibly be for Laurie Vallow? Okay. I have done like child abuse resulting in death cases. Give me a good old-fashioned gang murder every day. All right. Because when you have a child abuse case where you have a dead child, the client is already the most hated person in the courtroom, followed closely behind by the defense attorney. Okay. What's the worst that's going to, how much worse can it get? You've been accused of killing a child, for God's sakes. And I've done it from little kids, little babies to, well, not teenagers, but younger than teenagers. They're the worst case out there. So you're going to have to do your work as a defense attorney is going to come during voir dire to try and find the people that are going to say, hey, man, these are some really bad facts. And so we're looking for some really good jurors who aren't just going to give me the perfunctory response of, do you think you could be fair and impartial and listen to all the evidence until you've heard all the evidences in the case and reserve judgment until you hear all the evidence in the case. You're going to find people that aren't just going to give that perfunctory yes. You're going to want people to say, I'm actually going to really listen here. And I'm willing to do that. I will actually wait. Okay. Because there's bad facts. You've got 2 dead children. You've got a wife of your co-defendant that's also deceased. And although we don't know the cause and manner of death, we know she's dead. And within days of her death, you two, Laurie Vallow and Chad Daybell, are out there getting married in Hawaii. When your kids are missing, you got some explaining to do. All right, let's face it. You've got some explaining to do. And maybe the defense attorneys get up and say, ladies and gentlemen, Laurie Vallow may not get Mother of the Year award, but she is not responsible for their death. It was her brother, Alex Cox, that did it. I don't know if that's what they're going to say, but generally, that's what it's going to have to be. You're going to have to say, I acknowledge some way we're here. And the cameras, you know what the cameras are going to do? It's going to make everyone be on their game. Okay. We started the trial yesterday till we lost our feed. The George Walker case, the Roden, the Pike County murders. Okay. I thought the defense attorney did a pretty good job. Okay. Compared to the prosecutor in that case, it was horrific. She was terrible. Oh my God, if I was her boss, maybe she is the boss. I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say it. She sucked. Now, we all talk every now and then. We pause and we say something. We say, a like or She said, so many times, I literally wanted to take my pen and put it in my eye because that would have been less painful than listening to her be completely disorganized. I'm not even sure she had notes. Maybe she just thought she knew the case so well. Okay. And I get that. We've all been there where this stuff so well. You're going to work without a net. This is great. But it's always good to have a little bit of a couple of bullet points just in case you get that brain freeze moment, which has been known to happen when you're working without a net in front of a jury. It was terrible. So the point is the defense in this case, in the Laurie Vallow case, is going to have to acknowledge in some way, say, hey, listen, my client's not perfect, right? Just like they did in the Pike County murders. The defense attorney got up and said, hey, listen, you're going to hear about the Walker family. They've done some bad things. They're going to tell you they've done some bad things. Heck, they're even going to come to court and say they killed 8 people, for God's sakes, over a child custody issue. But they said, listen, my client, George Walker, sitting over there, he is not one of them. He's got their last name. It's something that you just have to live with. But it doesn't mean that it's basically guilt by association, right? So acknowledge that there's some bad things out there. He acknowledged that there was a murder of 8 people. But he says, my client had nothing to do with it. And guess what? You're even going to hear from the prosecution's witnesses. They're going to come in and say that my client had nothing to do with it, which is significant, particularly since it's a death penalty case, just like the Laurie Vallow case. There's got to be a little bit of humility in there, right? You have to embrace the bad facts. You can't make the bad facts go away. And frankly, I hope Judge Boyce keeps this trial out in the open by allowing things to be televised for the entire proceedings. That would be the thing that would be in the best interest of the public. It's the best thing for the judiciary so that people can see that their system works fairly. And if it isn't, people can see that as well. And if the prosecution shows up like they did in the Pike County murders, they're going to say, oh my gosh, the Pike County murders, they've had 5 years to prepare for that case. She should have rewritten that opening 35 times by now. And she got up there and she fell flat on her face. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? If you out there in YouTube land were bored as hell, what do you think the jury was doing? Suddenly they're thinking, okay, I had a bathroom break. This is good. The defense is going to talk. Oh, yes, he's talking much more nicely. Oh, and the prosecution's already objecting. Ooh, and it's not sustained. I think I'm going to have a listen to this guy a little bit more, what he has to say, because the judge thinks he might be right about something. Let's take a listen. So anyway, I know we kind of jumped back and forth there, but the point is, Judge Boyce, I hope you allow everything to be televised. Now, let's talk about Laurie Hellis's motion. Okay? This is the good one, ladies and gentlemen. And it wasn't on the bottom of the stack of stuff. It was on the top of the stack of stuff that we have for you here tonight. But this is the motion of the non-party, because we all know now, Judge Boyce, there are no interveners in Idaho criminal cases. There's just interested parties and non-movements. By God, semantics is everything. Anyway, she files this motion saying, hey, Judge, you've improperly sealed many documents. And it's my job here as a former or retired attorney who's writing a book. And we've had Laurie Hellis on the show, and maybe we can put a link to it. She's very, very interesting. And I have to say, out of full disclosure, I may have seen this early on, but it wasn't made public yet. So I swore an oath to secrecy, not to talk about it until it was finally public. But now that it's in the public, we can talk about it. Okay. So, if you have good stuff, you can send it to Scott. Okay. He's not going to talk about it unless and until he gets the word to do so. So we've had it for, a couple of weeks now, because I think this was actually filed September 3rd. September 3rd. Only took 10 days for the court system in the digital age to finally accept Laurie Hellis's motions to do it. Now, she started she kind of jumps around here a little bit, but let's just go through it. By my calculations here, I counted them. That's how I calculated them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Each block is a separate motion or hearing or order that's been sealed and made private only to the parties involved in the case. 44 orders. Now, I'm not going to go through them all, but let's just take a quick look at them. Page 2. Date 7/27. Order sealing state motion and memorandum objecting to the entry, appearance of counsel, and finding of conflict. And Laurie Hellis, like any good attorney, tells the judge, hey, there was no hearing on this issue and no written finding, and that this hearing falls within any exception or would interfere with the defendant's right to a fair trial. Any documents sealed pursuant to this order should be unsealed. If there were any documents sealed pursuant to this order, they should be unsealed. Bottom line. Perfect. Then there's the order. And she kindly, politely notes, there's nothing in the court record indicating the purpose of the sealing of this order. There's a status conference on 8/30, a status conference on September 8th of 2021, an order on a motion to seal. And she says on this motion to seal, it's unclear if there was an order associated with the motion. Just kind of playing fast and loose. And this is, I guess, what we see. I don't know. Is there like a separate secret docket for the Laurie Vallow case that even the public doesn't get to see? Maybe only the attorneys get to see? Order to close hearing and seal records to the extent any of this hearing was held outside the public view or in a judicial sidebar or in a video conference breakout room. The portion of the record of the hearing should be unsealed. There was no hearing on the issue, no written or finding that the hearing falls within any exception that would interfere with the defendant's right. We had another status conference on September 15th of 2021, September 16th of 2021. These are kind of significant, ladies and gentlemen. There's judicial sidebars going on. Then we have a proposed order, denied order to seal. There was no hearing on this issue and no written findings. Order to seal on October 8th. Once again, no hearing, no motion. stating why. They just kind of did it by judicial fiat. So let it be written. So let it be done. That's it. No rules to follow. Another status conference. A motion to seal, an order to seal, going back to November of 2021. December, an order to close a portion of the hearing and seal record. 1228, the memorandum decision and order disqualifying counsel. We obviously, that's the mark means he's been listed as an interested party. We already have a gist of that, but the portion that wasn't made public, once again, no hearing prior to the sealing of it. Another motions hearing on December 29th. Another motion on January 5th, February 9th of this year. Status conference, February 11th. A motion and order to seal on February 11th. No indication of what it was, what's taking place. They just do this outside of the complete public interest. We're not talking about juveniles. We're not talking, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, you could walk into any courtroom in America, plop your little bottom down on one of the uncomfortable benches in any courtroom in America, and no matter how uncomfortable, how embarrassing the proceedings, how the intimate detail that may be being discussed or taking place, you can sit there and watch it. And no one can say, excuse me, we're going to have you leave. This is just really insensitive, embarrassing. And, we just can't have you out here. Listen to this stuff. That would get reversed on appeal like that. The judge can't do it. The defense can't do it. Even the prosecution can't do it. And the defense can't do it. They cannot do it. You can't close off the courtroom to the general public. Even when the courtroom is so small and you have to bring in a lot of jurors, you still have to leave a few spaces so the public, usually family members, can sit there and watch the voir dire process. Okay? So how anyone with a law degree that's practiced criminal defense for a scintilla of time thought that this would be okay absolutely blows my mind, and it simply flabbergasts me that they thought it was okay. Are you kidding me? This is criminal law 101. And it's not the East Idaho News. It's not Court TV, the Associated Press, the McClatchy Company, CNN, ABC, Sinclair Broadcasting Group, the Cable News Network. The list goes on, and I'm just skipping around to the big ones. CBS News, Lewiston, KXLY, ABC, Spokane, Twin Falls, Boise, KIDOAM. All these people want a public courtroom, but yet it's Laurie Hellis that files the motion that's been secluded. Now, I have a friend who does investigative journalism in town, and he'll tell you I'm not a very well-liked guy because he's not interested in getting invited to all the cool kid parties. Ooh, I need to be nice to this person so they give me access. Right? I would think as a reporter, you say, oh, you don't want to give me access? I'm going to write about it every day in my paper. I'm going to put it on my TV show. They aren't giving me access because we ask the hard-hitting questions. But instead, what does the news media do? I don't care if it's local, national. They all want to go to the cool parties. They want to get invited to the cool Christmas parties. So they try not to be too hard on anybody so that they get that access. It's okay. Don't tell us what's going on. We didn't need to know on the decision and order dated March 2nd or March 11th or another order on March 11th or the order on March 11th, another order on March 11th. or the order to steal on March 18th. We don't need to know that. We are just so stupid out here as members of the public. We probably couldn't handle all that information. And by God, what if it's actually embarrassing? Like, there's certain things that are said in the motion, like, hey, we may have done something, but for the purposes of this motion, we're arguing this, right? Oh, that's right. That's what the defense counsel has to do sometimes. Yeah, because you all listen, the courts are saying, and the press is saying, don't worry about it. We're just too stupid. We couldn't handle that. You just tell us what we need to know, and we'll come back out here and we'll regurgitate it, and everything will be okay. You just let us know if it's okay. Give us a big thumbs up. It's all going to be okay. Right? So we've had Laurie Hellis on here. I told her, I'll say it again. She's my hero. Okay. She's doing what, well, neither me nor anyone else had done. She took the time. Now, granted, she's got her own interest in it. She's writing a book. No secret about that. She wants to get the most accurate information possible to write her book. Well, wouldn't you want to get the most accurate information if you're going to report the news as well? March 21st, the public too stupid to know. You couldn't handle it anyway. I mean, the court thinks so. And basically, y'all too stupid. We'll just seal it. No one's going to do anything. It's not like the press is going to come ask. Heck, the only thing they care about is just let us put our camera up when you say it's okay. Once again, we're just doing a good job. It'll be okay. Laurie Hellis is the hero of this entire thing. 44 entries in the record. And Laurie Hellis, the retired attorney, who she'll tell you by her own, like she's always been kind of underestimated, practicing law. She was a female. They just kind of ignored her. I wouldn't say ignored her, but they didn't take her serious by her own words. And hopefully I'm not taking that out of context, but that was kind of it. They always underestimated her until she won. And here she is, filing a motion saying, Judge, you're not following the rules. So you can call me whatever you want. You can call her Mrs. Laurie Hellis or Miss Hellis or movement or intervener or interested party. But the point is, Judge, you're going to have to acknowledge her and respond to her motions. And frankly, the judge could have done it and said, fine, I'll go ahead and unseal this. But then he says, no, Ms. Hellis, why don't you take the time and outline each and every hearing so that we know exactly what it is? And I say, thank you, Judge Boyce. Thank you for making Ms. Hellis do that job, because then it made it a heck of a lot easier for me to count up the 44 times the court said the public is too stupid to know what's going on because you couldn't handle it. You're not familiar with those big city legal terms like we are down here in Idaho. You can't handle the truth. It's too sophisticated. We're just going to rubber stamp it. And then Laurie Hellis, here she comes. My hero. Go, Laurie, go. Or she's known on one of the podcasts that she comes on, she's known as the good Laurie, as opposed to the bad Laurie, Laurie Vallow. Good Laurie. So, all right. Gets me all fired up talking about that. Because, hey, who knows? Maybe the court can explain to me, a simple man, a simple lawyer, explain to me why we shouldn't have access to every court filing. And I get it. We're not going to get the psychological evaluations. Okay, fine. Fine, court. Redact social security numbers. Okay, I can live without that. We can handle it. We've always been able to handle it. We can always handle more than we think we can possibly handle, right? And I don't think it's so much, well, I don't think it's them trying to protect us. I think it's their way of trying to say, you're too stupid. Or, God forbid, we start talking about the facts of the case. And who knows? Maybe it's a slam dunk case and the prosecution's going to screw it up. Or maybe it's not as clear cut as they say it is. And guess what? Maybe the prosecution's going to screw it up. Or who knows? Maybe the defense has already screwed it up. Who knows exactly? Why have there been motions to disqualify every single one of the prosecutors, at least two, right? Why not? Why? What's the issue? If it's important enough to raise with the court saying that person should not be on this case, the prosecution can respond and say, Judge, their allegations are frivolous. Then let us know why they're frivolous. Oh, it's going to embarrass me. Guess what? You're a freaking public servant, for God's sakes. You have to account to the public, Mr. and Miss prosecutors, in this case. And yes, you cannot go out there and let information go out. You cannot go out there and hold press conferences. That'd be in violation of the ABA model rules. That'd be in violation of the Idaho ethics rules. But information that comes out in the courtroom, you're not going to prejudice anyone in any particular way. I just don't get it. I don't get it. You can put as much information out there. Like, don't get me wrong. I have been to hearings where it's been covered by the press and you literally think, were they at the same hearing that I was at? Because that is not what happened, which is kind of why we started this channel, was because you had a bunch of people that weren't familiar with the legal system trying to explain what was going on in the legal system and had no idea what they were talking about. And it was just not good. And they had 30 seconds to do it, which oftentimes you need a little more time to do that. One of the reasons why we started this channel. I want to thank each and every one of you and all the 215,000 plus subscribers that we have. You know, wish it was 1 million. That'd be fabulous. Then we'd be hopefully educating even 1 million more people as to here are the facts, here's the law. You decide, instead of you're too stupid to know what's going on. Right? Gosh, who's the little heiress that was running a big scam? They did the thing, you know, you're too poor. You know, she had that voice. I can't remember. Halvey or something was her name. Like, you're too stupid. Are you stupid? I mean, we need to have that voice. You're too stupid when they just deny an order. You can't say you're too stupid. That's really what it's just ridiculous. So anyway, Thursday, we're going to decide whether we get hearings in the courtroom for future hearings. I think the judge will say Court TV did nothing wrong. Their producers did nothing wrong. There was nothing out there. The fact that you don't like it, the only thing the cameras are going to do, it's going to put everybody, it's going to force everybody to be on their best game. Bottom line. Okay. I did a case years and years ago. We've talked about it. You can actually go look it up. It was called In the Jury Room. It was a child abuse resulting in death case. The cameras followed both the prosecution and the defense as they prepared for this case and ultimately to trial. And the producers were given approval by the Colorado Supreme Court to put cameras in the jury room so that they could see how the deliberation process worked and how they came to their conclusion. Okay. But I can tell you, and I was a young attorney at the time, probably not knowing what I was I knew what I was doing as an attorney, but I didn't know what I was necessarily doing when I was agreeing to do that. Like, oh, that seems like a good idea, right? We're going to show the people how the court system works. And then I started thinking about it, like, oh my gosh, if we lose this, they're going to say, I was just out here showboating for me. And, you know, Exhibit A at the ineffective assistance counsel hearing was going to be the, you know, he agreed to put it on TV, Your Honor, you know. Fortunately, there were like 5 other attorneys in Colorado. They did that. I think you can still watch that show. But anyway, makes people be on their game, right? I knew that this was going to go out on national TV, during sweeps week or whatever it was. I was going to try to, do my best as the attorney. I probably could have lost 20 pounds or something, but I didn't. But I was more focused on being a good lawyer at that time. So I'm telling you, that's what cameras are going to do. It's going to make people be on their best behavior, because sometimes, the sniping can go back and forth. And I think if it was, obviously it's being recorded on the record, but if people saw the what was taking place, it would make the proceedings much nicer if everybody knew that. I mean, the court should already know the public's walking. Like I said, go do it sometime. There are what I refer to as court watchers, right? Some people do it today. They just go to YouTube and find a court case they want to watch. Well, before that, people just go to the courtrooms and follow a trial. Usually it was like older people, retired, or students doing something for school. And they would come in, and then, sometimes there'd be an issue like, are you a witness? Do you need to step out because of sequestration order? They're like, no, I'm just here watching the case. Very well. Enjoy. And when you start sealing stuff, my God, you better have a damn good reason for it. Because I don't know if the prosecution and the defense and the court's just kind of going along with a wink and a nod, like, it's all good. Hint, hint, wink, wink. It's all good. Make us all look good. We're trying to figure this out. Good, good. We'll make this up and we're going along. That's a problem. If they're all agreeing to it, it's still reversible error, because if there's a conviction, guess what? They're going to say, I don't care if everybody went along with it. You can't exclude the public from these proceedings. Bottom line. Man, got me all fired up. I just don't get that. I hate when the government thinks that we're too stupid to handle the truth. There'd probably be a little more faith in the judicial system. There'd probably be a little more faith in governmental entities if they'd stop treating us like a bunch of idiots and stop thinking that we're too stupid, or maybe they think we'll fall for anything, and just we'll tell them, the sun is shining. They'll tell you it's not, and you just, oh, okay, well, they said it, and I believe it because this comes from this person, and I like them. They're always right. I don't know about you, but I don't trust anybody. Nobody. Verify for myself. Bottom line. I've had too many clients over the years burn me where I thought, they're telling me it's all good. Oh, you were sick and in the hospital? Okay, no problem. The court's going to need that proof that you're in the hospital. Oh, you can't get that? Oh. Well, guess what? We're going to have to go tell the court that you told me that I relied upon your misrepresentation. And frankly, it's not going to be bad for me, because I'm going to say, Judge, I haven't been able to verify it. I'm taking this as my client's representation that he's in the hospital. As I tell clients these days, better have proof. It's not on paper. It didn't happen. So anyhow, I want to thank you all for joining us this evening. And hopefully you'd like to come join us. We'll continue the conversation in our Patreon show that we'll do immediately after this. And not as many people, I promise, will ask lots of questions. We didn't get to answer any questions tonight. I'm so sorry. But man, look at all those questions. Look at all those comments. But I am sorry. But we'll just have to go to the Patreon if you want your question asked. And on our Patreon show, you can call in and we can have a conversation as well. Okay. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. Gosh, it goes by so fast. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a subscriber. Thank you. If you're a Patreon, we'll see you there in just a couple of minutes. If you haven't joined to become a Patreon, it's like a couple of bucks and you get to call in. It's super easy. Some cool stuff. We send you all our trial guides, our evidentiary guides. It's good stuff. Well worth it. All right. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk.